In today's show, we're talking Lu Dort to Portland rumors and why the Blazers have to trade their pick on draft night. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Blazers your first listen every single day, 5 days a week, free on all platforms. Go check it out, make it a part of your daily routine, make it your first listen, and then tell your pals to do the same. Today's episode, a whole bunch of fun. We're going to talk about the latest Trailblazers trade rumor linking Portland to a certain guard out of Oklahoma City. This team certainly needs to load up on more guards. We're going to talk about who has worked out for the Blazers and who hasn't. A quick recap of who they've brought in it is now draft week as you're listening to this. This is Monday, June 20th show. It's draft week, baby. We made it. Talk about who's coming in and who hasn't come in. I think both noteworthy. And then finally close the show with just the truth. The Blazers have to trade their pick on draft night. If they're gonna go where they want to go, they have to make a trade. It has to happen on draft night. We'll talk about that to close the show. Let's talk about this rumor stuff first. Speaking of trading that draft pick, that's exactly what the reporting from Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report suggests the Blazers are trying to do. Fisher wrote a sort of latest intel roundup in Bleacher Report. You can find it at bleacherreport.com, and then also on his podcast, which is aptly named Please Don't Aggregate This, spoke a little more in depth about specifically the Blazers rumor. And the Blazers reporting from Fisher is as follows. Portland is interested in an exchange with the Oklahoma City Thunder for defensive stalwart, young bowling ball, Lu Dort. That would send 7 to OKC in exchange for Dort and the 12th pick. If you're a real hardcore listener to this program, you'll remember that about a month ago, back May 16th's episode, I did 5 trades for the Blazers to trade back and get better. And in my don't really love it, but it's okay section of trades, the middle section of that podcast, about the 13-minute mark. If you're looking for May 16th episode, you want to hear me talk about this a little bit more. I discussed exactly this trade, 7 for Lu Dort and 12. The Blazers need to add talent, so it's hard for me to say that if you trade away 7 and you get Lu Dort, who's like an NBA player for sure, a really good defender, and 12, who's like a rookie in the lottery, that's fine. It's just like the Blazers don't necessarily need more guards. I don't love it for just sort of like the fit on the roster, and the Blazers have had some rosters with talent and bad fit in recent seasons, and it's just you don't maximize all of your strengths in that way. So I do not love it just on the surface, to be totally honest. But yeah, like the Blazers need to go get talent, and Dort would certainly be that. And it also would allow you to be a little more aggressive in trading Josh Hart, although I think Josh Hart is just way better than Lu Dort. Lu Dort, a much better defender. Josh Hart just does a bunch of other things better. Like, he's just a better basketball player. Dort is on a super cheap contract. The Blazers could acquire him using their smallest trade exception and just absorb him into that. They wouldn't have to send back any other salary to make that work. I don't love it, but you see what the Blazers are trying to do. This would add a pick and a veteran, which I think is a really useful path forward. I do really think they need to come out of this draft with somebody on a rookie scale contract who they think can help. A first rounder. They have 2 second rounders, so either of those guys, if they nail those picks, great. That's what you want to do. But like, it's easier to find talent higher up in the draft. So trading back only to 12 with OKC seems to me, it seems like a worthwhile gamble. I don't love the deal, but like, we'll talk about this more at the end of the show. At some point, you just kind of have to, you've got to make your move. You got to make your move and do your best work. A couple other things on this. Fisher said on his podcast, so this was written in the story, the Lu Dort and 12 for 7 thing. And Fisher followed up on his podcast saying that, like, you don't really hear rumors from OKC, so this is mostly coming from the Portland side. Like, Portland is pushing this angle and this interest, I would say. That doesn't mean that OKC isn't interested. It just means that like the information is coming from Portland. OKC is notoriously tight-lipped with this stuff. They've also been bad on purpose forever. So they can choose not to leak it because people aren't too worried about. I'm not going to be mean. I was going to be mean to Darius Bazley, but I'm not going to be mean. Listen, OKC stinks, and they've stunk on purpose forever. They're going to stink on purpose again this year. Maybe they'll be rewarded for being bad for so long on purpose. Other reporting from Jake Fisher regarding the Blazers. A couple things. One, Portland is focused on OG Anunoby. That is their number one target. It's been reported a couple places that there's a number one target. I believe Sean Highkin of Bleacher Report has said as much, and Jake Fisher has been on this from the beginning. I believe he was the first one to report the Blazers' interest in OG Anunoby before it became like a thing that was everywhere. It's the Blazers that's who they want. That seems to be their target. They seem to have moved away from Grant, probably because the asking price is really high on Grant, and also because OG is just a better defensive player, and maybe that fits. And he's cheaper. Like you don't owe him a $100 million contract extension or need to pay him a $100 million contract extension shortly thereafter. So yeah, like OG is the Blazers' top target. On a Friday show, I did a whole podcast with talking OG Anunoby with Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors. Both of us are a little skeptical that the trade gets done, but certainly it seems like Blazers are zeroed in on OG. And the other important nugget from Jake Fisher's reporting is that the Blazers are probably out on the DeAndre Ayton sign and trade stuff. Some of it is that if the Suns do a double sign and trade, if they both send out a player and receive a player in a sign and trade, it really limits their financial options. So it doesn't appeal to Phoenix. It's not a good move. It's not a good move for Phoenix. But if, it always seemed like the Blazers were going to sign Jusuf Nurkic unless was something big, like a DeAndre Ayton type of thing. Seems like Nurk's going to be back. That's the reporting from Jake Fisher. That's your latest news. I don't love the Dort trade. Check out more of it on May 16th episode, 5 trades for the Blazers to trade back and get better on draft night. If you want to hear more on that one. It always seemed like Nurk was going to come back, so I don't think that's a big thing. And I think them being zeroed in on OG gives you a sense of what they're after. A really good young 3-and-D wing on a good contract. That's what everyone wants. And if the Blazers might push some chips in to try to make it happen, be curious to see if that does go through what the asking price is, because reportedly it started with something like 7 and Josh Hart. You would think that if the Raptors are going to move OG, it would go beyond that. But how far are the Blazers really willing to go beyond that? Because they don't have much to give away outside of that, other than some waiving some protections on future firsts and giving those away, etc., etc. That's your latest Blazers rumor. Shout out to Jake Fisher, a wonderful reporter who's really been on sort of the deal construction stuff recently. Jake's really he's on it. He's been on it. Second segment, I want to talk about who's worked out for the Blazers because it is draft week. The draft is Thursday. It's June 23rd. This is sort of the final week for teams to make their decisions, and then it comes quickly on draft night. Let's talk about who's come in for the Blazers and what it means for this team and who they haven't seen and what that means for them as well. But first, let me tell you about Bet Online, the place where you can find more props, more odds, more lines than ever before, and you can bet on everything. You may have missed the NBA Finals, but you've still got the Stanley Cup Finals. You also missed a major golf tournament this weekend, but you've got golf tournaments coming up. You got tennis tournaments coming up. You got the WNBA. You got soccer all over North America. You got combat sports, whatever it is, you're going to find more lines, more props, more odds. And you can also go to Bet Online, and they got news and betting tips so you can become an informed bettor. Win some money by getting smarter. Don't wait. Go take advantage today. That's Bet Online, where the game starts. All right. The Blazers on last Thursday, had a group workout that included two big old shiny names. Jeremy Sochan from the University of Baylor University, and Shaedon Sharpe from sort of Kentucky, a gentleman who wore a lot of Kentucky warm-up gear and didn't play for the Wildcats in his lone year at Kentucky. Both Sochan and Sharpe are going to go in the lottery at some point, probably. I guess Sochan could conceivably slide. Sharpe is a lock for a top 10 pick. Sochan, I think he'll go in that, like the Blazers range 7 to 12, but he could slide a little bit further because he's a little bit raw offensively, doesn't have it all there yet. But like, these are two names that are going to be right in the Blazers range, and they work them out. This was a public workout, reportedly from director of scouting at Pro Insights. The Blazers also had a workout for Josh Minot on Friday, but that was closed to the media, and that's the only place that's been reported. This is to say two things. One, what we see, what the Blazers show us, is what they want us to see and what agents want us to see. That is important to remember. So few teams left in the league open up draft workouts and say who they're draft and say who's working out and allow you to talk to players. Nuggets, Pacers, Blazers all do it for sure. I believe a handful of other teams as well. I know the Wizards do. But like, increasingly, more and more teams are making this like a super secretive process. But there is some value in having it be out there, both for agents to say, hey, he's worked out for everybody in the top 10, and you can go like, it's openly reported, and for the team to get some good press, but like, hey, here's the Blazers doing their due diligence, like it's here's them doing the work right out in front of you, to work right out in public. It always seems like they're doing more when you can see it, but the behind closed doors stuff doesn't feel as real. But this is a reminder that like on Friday they're working out other people at the facility without media availability, which again, like most teams in the league are doing. But like, there's a lot of, this is the time of year that what is in front of you is in front of you for a reason. It's kind of always like that with breaking news, but draft stuff especially, it's in front of you for a reason. Everybody wants you to know one thing or another. But regardless of sort of that smokescreen stuff, I want to remind you of, Sochan and Shaedon Sharpe are two really intriguing prospects. Sochan, a 6'9" defender. I've heard people say he can guard 1 through 5. No, chill. He cannot guard centers in the NBA. He's a versatile, big, long defender who has real defensive upside, but you're not throwing him on Dame and then Nikola Jokic at his age. He could develop into one of the true versatile defenders in the league, but how many people in the world can guard 1 through 5? Giannis? Is there a second one? Okay. Hit me up if you got a second one. That just gets bandied about too much for my taste. But a really versatile defender. Got some ball handling skills. Didn't shoot it well in college, but scout types seem to think he can shoot better than he showed at that level because his form looks okay and he shot free throws all right. Shaedon Sharpe is the real mystery guy of this draft, right? Didn't play at Kentucky, but was top recruit in his class, consensus 5-star recruit. The AAU tape's wild with the step back threes and the shot creation and the athleticism. He has athleticism to really pop. Kristen Peak, Yahoo Sports draft analyst, was on the show, and she says that if it all gets together for Shaedon Sharpe, he could be Anthony Edwards with a better jump shot. Anthony Edwards is already a really good player in the league. Like, will push for the All-Star game next year. If Shaedon Sharpe is him with a better jumper, my goodness. But also, I think Sharpe's just the lack of data on him has both like kept him in the top 10 because he hasn't been able to hurt himself, but has also like kept him out of the top 5 or out of the top 4 probably because of just the lack of data there. If he's available at 7, Sochan is not my Huckleberry. I think many of you like him more than me, but if Sharpe is there at 7, I think the Blazers have to take a long, hard look just because of the potential upside. If nothing else, get on the phones because he could be the name that slips to the Blazers and has the most sort of trade potential because teams are like, oh my gosh, this is like a top 3 pick that just took a weird route here and so ended up at 7. So I would be comfortable with the Blazers taking either Sharpe or Sochan at 7, but I personally, Mike Richmond, your podcaster, is not a big Jeremy Sochan guy. Just from reading the scouting reports, I've seen him play one game and he lost and got elbowed in the face. Of note, there are some other folks who have worked out for the Trailblazers who are right in their range. AJ Griffin worked out for the Blazers in a solo workout. Dyson Daniels in a group workout. Ben Mathurin in a solo workout. Jalen Duren in a group workout. Tari Eason, who's probably going to be a top 20 pick. Dalen Terry from Arizona, who's like a late first, early second round guy, could creep up even higher than that. And the Blazers have, according to their PR staff, another group workout on Monday. So maybe they announced the names at like 11 a.m., 10:45. So maybe if you're listening to this late on Monday, June 20th, you already know who's going to work out. But as I'm recording this, that's not how the Blazers do it anymore. So like this is probably their last public workout, I would assume, just timing wise, before the NBA draft. So that will be notable who is there. I think more than anything, it's like the one name that hasn't worked out for the Blazers is Keegan Murray, who's like maybe the ideal choice for them at 7. He just probably doesn't see himself dropping all the way to 7 and doesn't want to work out for the Blazers. So if they want to draft him, they can do it without a workout. I think that's totally reasonable for both parties. Reasonable for the Blazers to draft a guy who hasn't come into their gym to work out, and reasonable for Keegan Murray and his folks to be like, listen, we want to go higher, and hopefully Sacramento or Indiana will scoop Keegan up before he falls down all the way to 7. But Murray hasn't worked out. Be curious if he's on the docket for Monday. He's the only one not in the Blazers' range. Otherwise, like Sochan and Sharpe and Griffin and Daniels and Mathurin and even Duren to some extent are guys who have been linked, or not linked. I think that's the wrong word. The guys who people have mocked the Blazers, mocked to the Blazers like often, particularly Sharpe and Griffin and Mathurin. Like those are names you see there. I believe in the latest ESPN mock draft they have Dyson Daniels going there. I think he'd be a really intriguing spot. All of this is to say, this is Portland doing its due diligence right out in front of you. Why I mentioned that sort of secret workout that was Friday, because these are names you expect to be there. These are easy to get their agents to agree to have the guys go to Portland because, hey, we have 7. You're going to be in our draft range. You should come in. It's all easy on both sides to make it happen. But these are the names that they want you to see. The Blazers want you to see. You being like me, person who makes content all the time about the team. You, the fan, you, the rival executive, you, the assistant coach, whatever it might be, like the Blazers are getting guys in their draft range, into their building, doing their due diligence, and just operating like a team with the 7th pick in the draft in a totally above board and obvious way. I think the Blazers have to trade their pick on Thursday night. Join me in the second segment, or the third segment, close out the show, and I'll tell you why. I think they have to. I've come to the point where I do not think they can make their pick at 7. Let me tell you why. Join me. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers, and as promised, let me just tell you. Here's why the Blazers have to trade their pick. They have the number 7 pick in the NBA draft. They got 36 and they got 57. 57 is the second to last pick in the draft, thanks to some tampering draft pick removals from the group of 60. I do not think the Blazers can go into next season with 3 rookies, and probably one of those second round picks will be some kind of draft and stash guy. I would assume that maybe the late pick would be, or they'll trade it, sell it off to someone who wants a late pick. I don't think they can go into three rookies. But that's not why they have to trade the number 7 pick. They have to trade the number 7 pick because their stated goal is to be competitive next season. And this is their best and most realistic avenue to get a game changer, to get a roster, to get someone to really beef up the roster. They don't have a lot of other ammunition to trade, right? They were supposed to go into this summer. They thought they were going to have 2 top 10 picks and a bunch of ammo and a bunch of different avenues and all these things. If they don't trade 7, they just take Keegan Murray at 7. Nice fit. Nice fit. You're going to help. Pretty good basketball player at a position of need. They come away with a rookie and very few avenues to get better. Even if Keegan Murray is really freaking good, and he might be, I'm just using that name for example because I think he's like the best, like most obvious fit. Even if he's really good, he doesn't get the Blazers where they want to be. They want to be really competitive next year. They want to be squarely in the playoff picture. I'm not even talking championship stuff. I think they're thinking beyond competitive into the playoffs is like a fool's errand. The Blazers are too far away, too many steps away from that. But even to get back to the point where they are very competitive, where they're like the 5th best team in the West, they need to add a great deal of talent to the roster and a great deal of depth. And that is likely the best path to do that for this team is going to be through the trade market. you have to trade 7 because this is your best path. I am not in favor of trading 7 for like a straight up veteran. 7 for OG Anunoby, 7 for Jeremy Grant. I don't love it. OG, I'm much more OG supporter than I am Jeremy Grant. I just think he's way better fit in a variety of ways. But I'm in favor of the Blazers. If the Blazers, let me say this. What I think the Blazers should do is be a little more patient, but they're not going to do that. So here's why they have to trade their pick, because they don't want to do that. And if they don't want to do that, let's work in the world of logic and work in the world of reality, right? Or their reality. Our reality exists too. Those of you who are with me in the just take someone at 7 camp. You can't. The other 2 big pieces the Blazers have are Anthony Simons and Jusuf Nurkic in sign-in trades. They could also dangle Josh Hart and Nazir Little. Anthony Simons may get you back something exciting in a sign-in trade, but you always get less in sign-in trades than you do in a normal straight-up trade. And also, Anthony Simons is too good to probably let go for what you would end up getting back. Jusuf Nurkic is at a position that isn't particularly coveted in the league, and who is going to shell out the right amount of money, who doesn't have cap space now, and give something back that you want? It doesn't seem very likely. The Blazers have a large traded player exception where they could absorb $21 million of salary or a player making $21 million or less into that traded player exception. They don't have a lot of other avenues. They're not going to be players in free agency. They're just going to have the taxpayer mid-level. They don't have future draft picks because they're owed to Chicago. And even if they waive that draft pick, like they waive the protections and they say, okay, Chicago, you can have our 2023 draft pick straight up, then you are trading future picks down the line. You're trading like a 2025 future pick. Now you have 2 2025 firsts. You just don't have a lot of avenues. If you slightly tweak the protections in the Chicago pick and you trade someone to say, hey, that you can have our 2023 pick 5 through 14 protected, similar to the way that New Orleans made the trade this year with the Blazers. Still, that is a juicier pick for sure, to be certain. That is a juicier and more attractive pick, and that gets you closer. But even then, on its own, I'm not sure that is the thing that gets the Blazers over the top. 7 is their ammunition. You can't trade 7 with the sign-and trade guys, so it's separate. You can't, you can, I guess, technically, you could draft someone, hold on to their rights, not sign their contract, wait till free agency, agree to a sign and trade, all this shit. Sure. There is probably a way to do it, but it's not very likely, and it's basically certainly tampering. So I think you have to throw those out. 7 is their ammo to get better. 7 is their path to a good veteran. 7 is their path to trade back to get something like John Collins and the 16th pick in the draft, or not my choice, but Julius Randle and 11, or PJ Washington and 13. It's like their path. OG Anunoby and something. If you make the trade work, like it is. Their best path to upgrade this roster is trading 7. After you make the selection, the trade immediately gets less valuable. A real player is less valuable than the draft rights traded or agreed to be traded prior to the Blazers pick. Like whatever it works, like however the technicality works. But like giving someone the right to choose at 7 is that is your trade chip. That is I believe, your number one most valuable trade chip this summer. And if the Blazers want to be good, their stated goal to be competitive, I mean, I'm going to believe them. They keep saying it. They got to trade 7. There's no path forward. The path forward becomes much more difficult for them to be immediately good if you add a rookie to this team. It's more responsible. It's my preferred route. Quite frankly, I just think it's your best chance to get a superstar. Teams like the Blazers just have to draft superstars. That's how they get good. You draft a Damian Lillard and you give yourself 6 or 8 years to be really excellent with him at the helm. But if they are trying to be good, they can't waste the opportunity to trade their most valuable pick. For me, I hope they trade back. Hope they get a veteran and trade back in the draft and also come away, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But they don't have a choice. I think in some ways it would be troubling if they don't trade 7. I think they are. I gave it about a 95% chance they trade 7 last night. I'm at 98.5 right now. I think that thing is gone. Now it just depends on what they do. You know where to find the answers. We will follow all of the latest stuff and everything else on Locked On Blazers. Tomorrow's show, I'm going to make a case for who the Blazers should draft at 7, my preferred draft pick. I have hung around and watched some scouting videos, read a whole bunch of draft stuff, and I'm ready to make my call. So come back tomorrow to find out who I think the Blazers should draft at 7. We've got more shows later this week. Also, the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, just search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft wherever you get podcasts. They're also on YouTube, is out, and it's all 30 teams. Every podcaster, every team represented by a podcaster on the Locked On Podcast Network, all of us representing our teams. We're allowed to wheel and deal and make trades and all those things. On Friday's show, June 16th show, I made the pick for the Blazers. You can go listen to that show and see what I did and how I tried to make some deals and what didn't or did not come to fruition. The rest of the first round of the draft will be this week. That's Ultimate NBA Mock Draft wherever you get podcasts. Appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.